So good morning. This morning I'm going to talk about a talk by Christina Feldman. We talked about it a year ago. I was thinking about it and I mentioned it maybe last Tuesday night, I think. And so I went looking for it, and it's called Homelessness and Homecoming. And it's really wonderful. It's really wonderful talk. It's on Dharma Seed if you want to look it up and listen. I probably send it out to people who get my send out emails. And the homelessness she's referring to is the quality of the monks in the Buddha's day, and I guess to this day, truly, leaving their homes and becoming homeless in the sense of no longer attached to the material world of maintaining a home, having a living, and so forth. And so being homeless meant you were going off to focus your life on spiritual practice. And homecoming, which was really more of the talk than homelessness, was really about coming home to the actuality of what exists, what we actually are. Not an easy homecoming. And she had this phrase which really caught my ear in her talk. She said, "We have volunteered to be a hostage to the world of conditions." We have volunteered to be a hostage to the world of conditions. The world of conditions is simply refers to what it is that is occurring in this moment. What's the temperature in the room you're in? What's the lighting like? What are you hearing and seeing? What are you feeling in your body? What particular thoughts are going through your mind at this moment? All of those sense input from all the senses is a dance between our perceptual system, what we perceive, what we understand or make up out of the input coming through our senses. All of that perception is dancing with the actual experience of those things that we are sensing. So, if you're sitting there and you hear a dog bark, what is the dog's experience? What's happening with the dog? How come maybe the dog is outside? Is it going for a walk? Is it wandering the neighborhood? Is it in a fenced yard? What's that like for the dog? Most of this we don't know. But when the dog barks, we have a response. And the response can be elaborated. So for instance, the dog barks and you're meditating, we're just sitting. You hear the dog bark, and maybe the activation of hearing is intriguing to you. And so it's a pleasant experience. Maybe the activation of hearing is unpleasant. Maybe you feel intruded on, interrupted. If you stop there and go back to the breath, then you're not hostage. You, in fact, are free. Free to return to what you choose to return to. However, so often the dog barks, and I think, oh, that's so annoying. You know, can't they control that dog? Why do they have to let it? It's, you know, so who I am, who I become in that moment is a result of the dog bark occurring, which is to say the result of conditions. And the conditions are a dance between whatever it is occurring in the dog's experience that led to barking and my perception upon hearing the barking of what that, of how I interpret that, how I make meaning of it, how I elaborate it, how I get enmeshed in a reactivity to hearing the dog bark. That's being a hostage to conditions. It's pretty hard not to be. It's pretty hard not to be. We have a very complex world we're living in, getting more complex every year, every decade, beyond our capacity to rest and relax in it. So we practice. We create a practice. And the work of the practice is not being bound by our reactivity to sounds, to sights, to what we see, what we hear, what we feel, what we think. Not getting each segment of our life, each period of our life is not a series of bindings. I hear a sound and a whole elaboration occurs. Then I see the thoughts that went up and they lead to a whole different bunch of thoughts, and now I'm bound in that. And then I notice, looking out the window, an interesting bird that I don't recognize lands. And suddenly, all of that binding to that thought and reactivity is suddenly gone. Where did it go? Because now I have a whole new thing to be bound by. Being bound, experiencing binding, is the opposite of freedom. Freedom is the goal of this practice. So how do we practice freedom? Well, Christina quoted the Buddha in her talk, and she said, "The Buddha described awakening as disentangling or unbinding, a freedom from the stories constructed from fear and from self-view, from hatred and from anxiety." I'll read that again, and I think I'll use the word freedom. The Buddha described freedom as disentangling or unbinding, of freedom from the stories constructed from fear and from self-view and from hatred and from anxiety. So how do we do this? That's it, I get that. I get that I would like to be free of the constant elaboration and enmeshment of my stories, of my creations, in response to everything that goes on around me, whether it's in my house or outdoors or anywhere in the world that I touch into. I would like freedom from stories constructed from fear, freedom from stories constructed from it's all about me, freedom from stories that come out of hatred. Hatred is incredibly common. And I've noticed over the years that people are hesitant to say they hate something because they see hatred as like a big deal. But, you're in the supermarket, you're on a line to go through and pay for your groceries, and it's been a while. The people in front of you have gone slow, and the slow person directly in front of you is finishing up and then gets into a conversation with the cashier. Oh, I hate that. Right? And I notice that specifically because it does happen where I live. And I think I really ought to be delighted and relaxed that the cashier and this person in line are having a conversation like human beings. And when I see the agitation of, oh no, it's going to take even longer, right? I hate that. I don't hate the cashier. I don't hate the person in line in front of me. Uh, what I really hate is the experience of restlessness and anxiety and feeling like I need to, you're thwarting me. That's self-view, right? That's stories constructed from self-view, from fear that I'm never going to get home. My food's going to spoil before I ever get in the car. I'm anxious. There was a quote from Sylvia Boorstein that I've read a number of times where she said that mindfulness is paying attention to what is occurring in this moment, internally and externally. So in that story of being on the line, externally I described it, internally, right, also. And then she said two really important things. One is knowing what is the mind state that accompanies this moment. So the mind state I had in the grocery line that caused the anxiety is a restless mind state, a mind state of not being where I actually am, which is just waiting online to buy my groceries. And if I compare that to all the human beings who've lived on this planet throughout the entirety of the existence of human beings. Uh, I am a spoiled boy, right? I'm just sitting there in a line with a selection I chose from a vastness of options that mostly people have never had that kind of possibility. Everything is like so soft and given, right? And here I am upset because it takes time to get through the line. That's the mind state I'm bringing with me. That's like the sense of scarcity rather than abundance. The sense that my time is precious. You're thwarting my ability to get back to what? Checking my email? you know, uh, knowing the mind state that you're bringing. So later in our talk, Christina had this to say: cooling the fires of agitation, tasting the sublime peace that comes in not clinging. Cooling the fires of agitation. I am agitated. I want things to be different than they are. I want them to be really all about me. I want everything, I want the path to be smoothed in front of me. I want every direction I choose to flow into what I want. And I want all obstacles removed. And since that never occurs, I'm agitated because what I want is I want to keep clinging to this fantasy of being a self that navigates a world that is dedicated to my wants and needs. Well, the world isn't dedicated to my wants and needs. The world exists. It is as it is. And it's filled with living beings by the uncountable number, all of whom have wants and needs. Many of those wants and needs are not particularly appealing to me. It's still cold where I live, but in just a few weeks it's going to warm up, and the first thing that happens where I am that warms up is an explosion of insects. And of course, two of them are mosquitoes and lime ticks. They're all over here. And, I don't want them to show up. And dear God, have I not done enough that you can smooth the path so that I could sit outside as the sun is going down and the mosquitoes, they just go elsewhere. They go, oh, he's sitting, he's meditating, he's cool. Let's go find someone else to get our nourishment from. Yeah, right. Actually, they adore me. They find my blood to be very nourishing. Uh, clinging to what we wish was going on instead of knowing what is going on. Knowing that what is going on is the coming from the wants and needs of people or animals or plants or magical beings that are different than I am, that have different wants and needs. If I keep clinging to what I want, I am simply a prisoner. I am bound, fettered, locked up, boxed in. Testing the sublime peace that comes in not clinging. We should try that in your sit today. See if you could test that out. See if something shows up. So Christina goes on to say, we are not short of opportunities to cool the fires of agitation. The agitations of craving, of aversion, of obsession. To cool the fires of judging and anxiety. And instead, to take our seat really firmly in the classroom of our very lives. I love that. I love that. The importance of taking your seat, of having faith in all the work that you have done all your life to be able to be free of binding, to be unstuck, unboxed, fluid and free. All that work. Take your seat. And in the practice of mindfulness, what is it that you are being mindful of? You are being mindful of the very flow of your life. This is life unfolding in awareness, moment after moment after moment, watching with delight, with joy, all the arising of obsessions and habits and styles and patterns and ways, that you identify as me. And how do you experience the joy? By not clinging, by not being stuck in self-view, by not seeing everything that arises is about me. How could it not be about me? This is my sensations in the body. These are my thoughts in the mind. This is how I'm perceiving sound and sight and smell and taste and emotion. These are all mine. Mine. It's all mine. Right? It's evil. It's totally evil to go there. And yet, we live there an awful lot. It might be good to, all right, to cool the fires of agitation and self-view. Where do cravings and aversions and obsessive arrive if there is no self that is constantly creating them, constantly renewing them, supporting them? Our preferences bind us. When we are mindful, we pay attention to the state of the mind. We watch mindfully as everything flows and moves, watching our very lives. And the path of cooling the fires of agitation is one that we cultivate in the midst of our habit patterns, not when they somehow are miraculously gone, But in the midst of our habit patterns, we learn to practice liberating the mind from compulsion of habit and from reactivity. It's almost as if we are withdrawing consent. It's almost as if we are withdrawing consent, that we are no longer volunteering for suffering. We are no longer willing to be a hostage to conditions. We withdraw consent. And we can write the story of our lives with habit patterns that don't serve us well, or we can write the story of our lives with understanding and clear seeing, and with peace and with freedom. Sounds good. Sounds really, really, really good. But it takes a lot of practice. It takes a great deal of practice in order to be able to watch the arising of binding, of clinging, of holding on to, and to be able to withdraw consent, to be able to say, yeah, I don't think I want to go here. A thought process begins that's habitual and unpleasant, and you go, no. A sound occurs, and you start seeing the perceptual system go into a whole process, and you go, no. You keep coming back to the breath, steadying, calming, releasing the binding. Oh, does that sound so relaxing? Releasing the binding. So that's what I want to practice this morning. Releasing the binding. Don't make it complicated. Just relax. And every time something comes up that begins feeling like binding, just withdraw consent. Say, no, I don't want to do that. And if it takes a couple of minutes before you realize what you're doing, that's okay. Withdraw consent then. Whenever you become aware that you're binding, unbind, relax. Enjoy the sensation of being a living being. Enjoy life as it is. Enjoy. So let's sit.